Take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow any feelings of worry, stress, or tension to feel like it's leaving your body in your outward breath. Breathing in that resourceful feeling of relaxation, relaxing your eyelids, and just feeling that tension leave your body. As you breathe outwards, feel it leave your body, enabling you to feel more relaxed and to feel like you're letting go. That's it. Position your body in a way where you can feel more comfortable. That's it. And as you breathe in, imagine a bright yellow color going in through your nose. And imagine the brightness of the yellow representing whatever resource you need most right now. Maybe you need relaxation, but maybe you need motivation or inspiration. As you imagine that bright, vibrant yellow going in through your nose, feel the vibrancy, the intensity of whatever resource you need most right now going into your lungs. Feel your heart extracting that resource state, every cell in your body. And then feel and imagine seeing a darker, grayer, shadowy color leaving your body in your outward breath, representing whatever you've been holding on to which isn't true. Maybe it's a feeling of not being good enough. Maybe it's a fear of failure. Maybe it's unworthiness. But I want you to acknowledge the possibility that these things aren't true. And as you breathe in that wonderful feeling of resourcefulness, just give permission to your body, to your mind, to your spirit to let go of anything that's holding you back. Maybe you think of them as self-sabotage, maybe you think of them as a block. Really feel like it's time to let go now. And as you do so, see that dark grey colour leaving your mouth, leaving your nose, before another deep breath of bright yellow goes back in. And I want you to get a sense of feeling more and more resourceful with each and every breath. Feeling that it's okay to let go of these blocks. These blocks have been trying to keep you safe. But in doing so, they're holding you back. And they're holding you back from wonderful feelings of pride and accomplishment. They're holding you back from the high levels of confidence and self-esteem. So maybe they are trying to protect you, but at what cost? Do you really want to be protected, but miserable? To feel that you've avoided risks, but feel unworthy? I want you to get a sense that sometimes going out of the comfort zone is what it takes to blow off those cobwebs and to be an active demonstration that you believe that you're more capable than you think you are. I want you to think of the countless times in your life where you've exceeded your own expectations. And by nature of exceeding your expectations, if you simply did what you thought you could do, you would have deprived yourself of doing more than you ever could. So breathe in this intense, bright, yellow feeling of resourcefulness and acknowledge that the only way to test your limits is to go beyond them, to do things you've never done before, to take on challenges you've never experienced before. And one of two things will happen. you'll either find your limit, or secondly, much more likely, you'll realize that you have fewer limits than you ever realized. As you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to imagine going back in time, maybe to a conversation with a family member about doing something that perhaps was on your bucket list for a long period of time. Maybe they just casually said they're doing something, and maybe you said, "Do you mind if I tag along?" And in doing so, I want you to imagine the first of a line of dominoes being tipped over, creating a chain reaction that led to what we can call the ascent. And during that ascent of taking on a difficult challenge, you realize two things. One, that in order to take on this challenge, you needed to raise your standards. And secondly, to avoid future shame, you were willing to put the hard work in beforehand. You were using anticipatory fear to work for you rather than against you. And I want you to step into that body back then that decided to raise your standards. And I want you to think of the specific things that you did. Maybe you made an exercise plan. Maybe you joined a gym or a class. Maybe you hired a trainer. I want you to think of the specific things that you did in your life. If you joined a gym, what gym was it? If you started using a Peloton, what room were you using it in? What challenges, what time of day? What was the name of the trainer? How did you find them? And I want you to think that there was a chain reaction taking place. By setting a goal outside of your comfort zone, you intuitively knew that you needed to prepare. That's all the ascent is. Raising your standards to prepare. Feel that inner motivation. Remember what you did to reduce your portion control sizes. Where did you keep the food? How did you prepare it? And I want you to think of all of these things as raising your standards. You're moving your body more, eating food in small portions. You were raising your heart rate, sweating more, exercising muscles that hadn't been exercised that way before. But this wasn't a one-off. A thought kept recurring, and maybe there was a few thoughts. One, noticing progress, and every time you noticed that you were feeling lighter, stronger, faster, that the same thing was easier, that you were becoming better, scan your body for that feeling of personal pride. The pride that comes from doing something difficult. The pride that comes from doing something challenging. But also recall how many times you thought of that future goal and you wondered what you would need to do to avoid that potential shame on the horizon, that potential regret in the future. And we can call this the pincer movement. You were associated into regular feelings of the pride that came from noticing progress, and you were motivated to avoid an unwanted emotion in the future. But you didn't have that emotion in the present. Pride is the opposite of shame. And think how much pride you experienced in those months leading up to the ascent. And I want you to imagine you did all that training day after day, week after week. Things got easier. Your confidence grew. People noticed and said things. And every time they did that, they were adding fuel to your mission, your goal, your desire to keep those standards high. Notice that you didn't need to be perfect, just consistent. Consistent with not perfect standards, but high standards over a period of time, and it made incredible progress. And then imagine it's the time of the goal. Imagine flying out to where you need to fly. Imagine wearing the clothes, the boots. Imagine day after day there you were, making steady progress. And perhaps there was inner dialogue that said, I'm doing this. I'm living this. And remember how good it felt. Remember how good it felt to get to the top, to make that ascent, and to realize that you weren't the last one, that you exceeded your own expectations, that you felt fit and strong and healthy and light. And I want you to feel how good that feels and know that this is what happens when you have high standards linked to a goal and a willingness to do what it takes to achieve it. And then I want you to imagine that it's just 24 hours before you got some unexpected news. But I want you to imagine that the version of you from the future comes to say hello, tell you how good you look, how proud they are of all the progress that you made, and to tell you something that is about to happen, and to tell them that your instinct is to misread this information, to think of it as something as different to what it actually is. They warn you, they give you a heads up. They tell you that you are worthy, that you've got such high standards, you're brimming with confidence. And they tell you that the antidote to this is not to wallow in self-pity or shame, but to set yourself a new challenge that will enable you to keep moving forward, to keep progressing, to keep evolving. And if you've accepted this information, let me know by nodding your head. And then imagine 24 hours later, you receive the same news. You're already expecting it, there's no surprise. And I want you to think how different it feels this time. Almost inconsequential. Water off a duck's back. Like when you're listening to a song and it skips for just a split second. That insignificant. Doesn't create a downward spiral. If anything, it increases a resolve for you to be your very best version of yourself. And if it feels different this time, let me know by nodding your head. And then I want you to think of the future. A future with what your life is like when you maintain these high standards, not for 6 months, but for years and years. No strings attached, no expectations. Just that you get to feel good about being in your own body. You get to feel worthy. You get to feel like you're growing, evolving, taking on challenges. And I want you to think about what could be a good challenge for you to set for yourself right now. Something physical, something outside of your comfort zone, something that moves your life forward. And maybe you've thought of something already, or maybe you're just allowing your unconscious mind to surprise you with an epiphany, a moment of inspiration. Maybe things that have been in the background will suddenly jump out at you and let you know that this is the challenge that you need. But if your unconscious mind is open-minded to a challenge that would encourage you to raise your standards, to be rewarded with progress and pride proportionate to the challenges that you overcome, just let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And now I want you to imagine that you're an observer, and I want you to see that future version of you raising your standards. Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow. But see that version of you with even higher standards nutritionally, higher standards physically. Maybe you see yourself using that Peloton more often. Maybe you see yourself going for jogs or runs in the neighborhood. Maybe you see yourself doing home workouts or joining a gym. I want you to see yourself looking even more focused and determined and enthusiastic than you did on that previous ascent. Because an ascent is always easier on the second attempt. The fact that you've done this before means that you can do it again. But I want you to see yourself enthusiastic, passionate, focused. See yourself being rewarded with big doses of progress, which in turn you convert into feelings of accomplishment and pride, confidence and self-esteem. And I want you to see this happen not over a day, not over a week, not over a month. See that consistency week after week, month after month. And see how you handle adversity and setbacks. Water off a duck's back. See yourself smiling, brimming with confidence. See yourself being paid compliments and you receiving them well. See yourself getting wanted attention. Eye contact, smiles, compliments. Only this version of you feels incredibly comfortable receiving them, feels deserving of them, feels that this is entirely proportionate to who you are. And if this future version of you seems like it would take your life in a positive direction, let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to see the ripple effect of doing something not for you, but for something bigger than you. A cause, a purpose, a person. See that when you're making it bigger than you, you're rewarded with additional resources. The resources of discipline and motivation, resilience and tenacity. And I want you to see in your future more of these challenges and goals, not a one-off, but as you're preparing for one goal, you're already thinking of the next. And they don't all have to be physical, but this relentless desire to be stimulated and challenged, to grow and to evolve, encourages you to keep your standards high and to be rewarded proportionately to those high standards. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Feel like you're returning to the present, and then exhale. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Feel like you're reconnecting into the present moment as I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.